There's two new heroes I want to show you. They look insane. I've already had a look and I've already had a thought about how to use them. But yeah, check this out. So the first one is Magda. She is a fighter for the cultist faction. She is a 2-range fighter. If we go by her base stats, they're not great. The HP is fairly low for a fighter. The attack is on the lower side for a fighter, though not incredibly low. 20 cost is quite high for a fighter. 2.5 interval is slightly faster for a fighter. But that's it. That's her base stats. But her talents and her skills are where she gets kind of crazy, I think. So the talent is when an ally dies in range, crit damage increases by 70% for 12 seconds. That probably sounds a bit weird and not very useful. However, the cultist faction on the Forerunner server has 2 extra heroes that will be very good with this. There is Cerberus, whose entire build, the way he works, is that when he dies, he generates a ground area effect underneath him, dealing massive amounts of damage. This thing procs really fast, hits everyone in range, and absolutely massacres. Cerberus is one of the highest AoE magic damage dealers in the game. He just absolutely obliterates if he dies with his ultimate active, which can boost his damage by 100%. So it just becomes like 200% AoE damage, stacking with whatever else he has. Instances are like every half second for 12 seconds. It's just crazy. It's so much damage. So anyway, yeah, Cerberus is built around dying. Like he dies, he leaves the ground pool, and then he annihilates everyone. He's also the cultist faction, the same as Magda, so they would work very well together. Additionally, there is another hero, an epic called Aatrox, who is not on global yet. He's also a cultist. He has a cost of only 7. He has a revive time of only 20, so Aatrox is really good for this kind of stuff. And when he dies, he also leaves the ground effect. It's not quite as strong as Cerberus by any stretch. Like it's quite a bit weaker, but it still can do some decent damage. But he's quite cheap. He respawns a lot, so you could use him in conjunction with Magda to get this talent up quite a lot. He respawns every 20 seconds, and this lasts for 12 seconds. 70% crit damage is a lot. So there is some potential really good synergy there. And basically, she seems like a Gear Raid 1 hero. She's an AoE damage dealing mage, but she's actually a fighter. She's also the magic damage type. So yeah, that's the talent. Her basic attack deals 100% AoE up to 120% AoE damage to 5 enemies in range. Her range is only 2 tiles, so you're probably going to place her either behind the wall just to get some bonus damage out, or if possible, because she is a bit squishy, get her in the front row facing across to hit all 3 lanes at the same time. The one she's in as well as the ones in front. She's only hitting up to 5 enemies though, so that's unfortunate. But there is something to help with that. But moving on, her ult, Storming Assault, lasts for 20 to 30 seconds, costs between 1100 and 900 rage, is manually activated, and changes her basic attack to hit 3 times every time she attacks, dealing 160% AoE damage. So that means that every time she attacks, she's going to be dealing 480% damage to 5 targets. That's pretty good. That's a lot of damage. It lasts for 30 seconds. That's a very long time for this kind of AoE. So I think this could be kind of crazy. I know I said her attack is kind of low for a fighter, but she's basically a mage. And for a mage, this is actually pretty good attack. It sounds like she's going to absolutely annihilate. She'll be a bit tricky trying to place her and keep her alive. But even just placing her behind the wall in Gear Raid 1, she'll be doing a massive amount of damage. Next up, this one is kind of crazy as well. The casters and allies in range get penetration increase and damage increase. You notice there's no timer, there's no cast, there's no cooldown. This is permanent. She permanently gets 10 to 15% penetration of defense and magic resist, and she permanently gets 10 to 20% damage bonus buffs. And anyone in front of her, I'm assuming while she's alive, also get this. So if you place an Aatrox or a Cerberus in front of her, she's going to be boosting them quite a lot. So passively, she's avoiding a lot of the enemy's defense, which is going to be really, really good. And she's going to be permanently buffed with effectively a max skill Laurel buff. So it's really good. It's a really good passive. It's not very interactive or interesting, but it's very strong. And finally, Deadly Thrust. Upon triggering the talent, so an ally dying, or triggering her ultimate, her basic attacks will knock enemies back for 6 to 10 seconds. I don't have a lot of love for the knockback system in the game currently, but if it's when her ultimate triggers and she's hitting 3 times, it should be pushing them back quite a lot, and maybe this will help in Gear Raid 1 reducing damage taken to the wall. So it might be decent, because it will trigger on her ultimate, right? But obviously it's not adding any damage to her kit, so yeah, I don't know. I don't want to know what I think of it. I think she looks great though. I mean, these wings are pretty cool. But she's obviously a Zillitu sort of remodel, I guess. But anyway, her base kit looks good. Let's look at the awakenings. So the first awakening, just on deployment, immediately restores 5 cost. I'm not super fond of that, because she'll still cost 20 to deploy, you'll just get 5 back afterwards. So yeah, it feels kind of weak for a first awakening. Some attack. Awaken 3, after an ally dies in range, she attacks 5 more targets for 12 seconds, so she can hit up to 10 enemies then. So that will work a lot better. The 5 target thing is kind of restricted for Gear Raid 1. You do want to hit more targets than 5, but quite a lot of heroes have a cap on their targets. So it's unfortunate, but she's doing such massive damage that maybe it's okay. And if you do get to Awaken 3, 10 targets at a time is going to be plenty enough. Awaken 4 is more penetration, so she's going to be just skipping through loads of their armor. And Awaken 5 is attack speed. So I don't think her awakenings are that crazy personally. I think Awakening 3 is good if you're going to want to, but if you're using Cerberus or Aatrox to kind of keep her talent procced up, because 70% is a lot of crit damage. So yeah, overall, I think Magda seems potentially like she should be really, really good. These were just added this weekend, by the way, to the Forerunner server. They're not on global yet. I don't know when they're coming to global, but they are very freshly added. There was no anything. There was no marketing. There was no press, but they just kind of snuck them in. So I wanted to go over them quickly because they seem interesting. And the second one is actually the one I'm more interested in. Other than the fact she kind of looks like a holy gimp, Constance does seem pretty good. So the model is kind of interesting. I do like paladinic things, but the helmet kind of puts me off, to be honest. But she is a very unique hero. She's probably one of the most unique heroes we've got, just because we have our first healer that is a defender, which we'll get into in just a second. But first, let's go over her stats and stuff as usual. So 3 block, normal for a defender. 18 cost, I think, is around average for a defender. They are a bit expensive. Standard revival time, standard damage type. A very unique attack range. She hits everyone around her, but that's because she is not actually hitting, she's healing. She heals everyone around her. She will strike the person she blocks, which we'll get into in a second, but she actually can heal adjacent allies. And if we go to max level her, she turns into basically a Dolores type attack range. So very interesting. So let's look at her stats then. The HP is kind of low. So her stats are kind of similar to Azhor's, which are not crazy. I think Regulus has around 4,000 odd defense. So yeah, not incredible base stats, but that's fine. And everything else is kind of the standard. So let's get into why she's so interesting to me. Her talent, when being healed, the hero restores 3% rage, can only be triggered once every 2 seconds. So it doesn't sound very fancy, but that's very good. And I haven't got into this in any videos yet, but defenders actually restore rage a lot faster than other heroes if they're taking damage, because taking damage will grant you rage back. So they're attacking and taking damage, and the rage granted from attacking doesn't seem to scale on the damage you do, otherwise it would be insane. So defenders get their rage up really fast, and then additionally restoring rage upon being healed every 2 seconds, assuming she is being healed as frequently as possible, that's better than an Eloin passive, and it will stack with an Eloin passive, so it's kind of crazy. Anyway, the first attack, single target heal, grants attack-based healing. So this is the tooltip on the Forerunner server. It will come to global very soon, and you can very easily see what they scale on. You can see Caster's attack here as well. To 1 ally in range, restoring HP equal to 60 all the way up to 80% of her healing multiplier. It's not theirs. For the ally. When the hero blocks enemies, she stops healing and strikes 1 blocked enemy for 100 to 120 damage. So obviously the interesting part is not that she hits someone, it's that she can heal someone and her range is a Dolores. The reason that's so interesting to me is she is a ground-placed hero. She's not a platform hero. So you can place her in different places that you couldn't place a Dolores, to cover and heal allies. And obviously you might be thinking, well, why do you keep comparing her to Dolores? Dolores isn't really a healer. She's an attack booster. Well, huzzah! Her ultimate, Hammer of Blessings. Apply 35 up to 45% inspiration to other allies in range for 15 seconds. Dolores, I believe, with Awakening 1, hers is about 60%. So this is 45%, which is quite a bit lower. However, if we look at the max stats, and these scale on your attack. So this one is 45% for 20 seconds at max skill. You'd want to max skill it. She's an attack booster, you max skill them. 45% for 20 seconds, right? At 3.2k base attack. So 45% of that base attack. Now, if we go to Dolores, we see that hers is 30% plus 10% here, plus another 20% there. So that's 60%. And then if we go to hero details, you can see that she has 2.5k attack. So 2.5k versus 3.2k. It's not a massive difference. 700 attack, though, is quite good. I think it might make up most of the difference between their inspirations. The other thing is that they both last for 20 seconds, right? So the same duration and probably a similar inspiration amount, because it does scale on their attack. Constance will have higher base attack. Additionally, and this one is really important, we're kind of getting into the build details here, but look at the base HP of Constance, 23.5k base HP. Dolores, on the other hand, is 7.4k. That's a massive difference. That's over 3 times higher than Dolores. The reason that's important, as one of the most common gear sets to give Dolores is, of course, the Glacier set, as it converts like 3 or 4% of your max HP into attack. It is your max HP. I have tested it with unleveled piece of HP percent gear. You increase the HP percent, you do more damage. So it definitely scales on max HP. So putting a Glacier set on Constance with this much max HP is lots of attack more, and I think it will overwhelm the difference in the inspiration buff. So I think Constance will be a better attack booster. I think she's the legendary inspiration booster, finally, for Watcher of Realms. So Constance seems to be an incredibly important hero to me. And we're not even done yet. There's 2 passives to go over, but even still, we've got more to talk about with this ultimate. As I said earlier, defenders gain rage faster because they take damage. So if you do have Constance taking damage and tanking something, she'll be getting this quicker. Additionally, when she's healed, remember, she gets 3% rage back. She's also a healer herself. So she's going to be churning through her rage super quickly and getting this Hammer of Blessings up very fast, I reckon. And beyond that, there's another thing to say regarding this. Dolores can only be used in certain ways because the maps are deliberately designed in such a way that they break apart the platforms. But if you can place Constance in any of the ground tiles, then she's easier to use than Dolores. Think about Guild Boss. In Guild Boss, you can only place 3 ground tiles within Dolores' attack boost. With Constance, you could place 5. You could have Constance at the middle, and then you have 5 tiles around her to place fighter units. So you could have a full Nightmare team plus Zillitu. I think that could be a good meta. It could work. It would be interesting to see if that goes anywhere. And also, she has talents, which we haven't got over. So these are less interesting. Rejuvenating Chant, healing other ground units increased by 20%. So I guess that's something else to say. If you do want to, you can probably solo heal with Constance. Her healing interval is 2.4 seconds, which isn't that slow. And she increases healing to ground tiles as well. And also when she heals allies, she heals herself. So she's always healing herself, which is crazy good. And will also, I'm assuming, proccing her passive, her talent to get the rage back, which is really nice. Finally, when receiving damage, and bear in mind, this has a cooldown of 30 seconds. So once every 30 seconds, she will restore HP equal to 100% of her healing multiplier. If they receive AoE damage, she heals all allies in attack range equal to 40% of her multiplier. These do scale up. 60% to allies or 150% to herself. So yeah, she has some good clutch survival. She has the ability to save allies from the AoE damage, the meteorites in Guild Boss. I think she's a really good Guild Boss healer. I would use her in conjunction with fighters and just try a Nightmare squad out, because you can get them all under the boost. The best, and some of the best Guild Boss DPS are Salazar, Zillitu, Deimos, and Arrogance. Those 4 are really high tier DPS in Guild Boss. Hex, I think Hex and Setram compete for the other 2 best slots as well, probably better than some of those ones. But generally those 4 ground tile DPS I listed are very good. So it's definitely legitimate. You could definitely have a very powerful team based entirely off of just Constance healing and ulting to inspire them. You would lack a rage booster from either Elwyn or Leia. And since we mentioned Leia, she is a member of the Watcher faction. So she does have the benefits from, if you do have a Leia, periodically increasing damage and healing, and increasing damage on allies whenever they're healed. So it would work with Leia. Leia also increases rage regen to get ultimates up faster and is another attack booster. So those 2 together would be a dream team in my opinion for Guild Boss. Anyway, moving on, we have Awakenings. The first Awakening, for every 1 ally present in range, increase healing effect by 5% up to 15. So if you have 3 allies in range, you get 15% bonus. Healing multiplier, 300 attack is standard. And then at Awakening 3, when receiving healing, the hero's attack increases by 10% for 10 seconds. This might not sound that fancy, but something to keep in mind is the inspiration bonus specifies additionally the caster is immune to such buffs. So you cannot really attack boost Dolores or other casters before using their ultimate, because they've reworded most of the attack boosts to be inspiration, and they are now immune to these buffs themselves. So Dolores can't be inspired to then give a better version of it. But an A3 Constance can. She can get 10% attack, which will make her Hammer of Blessings a lot better. Additionally, in a Glacier set with all the good things going on, it could be a really powerful attack boost, and she could get it very regularly due to her talent. So moving on, Awakening 4 is Rage Regen Auto, so that's pretty good. We want her ult up as soon as possible. And Awakening 5, when blocking enemies, the hero restores an ally's HP equal to 40% of healing multiplier. So that means that even when she's blocking, she is still going to be a healer. She doesn't need to be free. So at Awaken 5, she can actually block enemies and still do her job as a healer. So yeah, that's it. Those are the 2 heroes I wanted to cover. I kind of went on quite a bit on Constance, but I hope you appreciate that. I think she is genuinely a very, very good hero. It's nice to have a healer that's actually a ground hero. I think that's really cool. It's nice that we get some more variety. So I have high hopes for Constance. I think she should be great. You do need skill ups, and skill ups are expensive in legendaries. But having the ability to have a healer on the ground is really good. And that will be massive in Void Rift, in the Toreador stage especially. That would be so good. And the inspiration is, she's just going to be really good to use in conjunction with a whole bunch of heroes. Especially ranged fighters like Zillatu and Arrogance will be very easy to use with her. So yeah, I think she's great. I think both of the new heroes look pretty good. Magda and Constance I think look very strong. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I just wanted to go over the 2 new heroes and give you my thoughts on what they would be like. I think Constance is probably the better one because attack boosters, the inspiration boosters are not super common. And I think having a ground tile healer, defender, and attack booster is just kind of insane. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye-bye.